Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. We are actually doing another really fun interview today, style, which will be super fun. We have discovered we have lots of fun friends and family in our lives that all have very interesting careers. We're like, instead of just constantly hearing from us, we thought it would be fun to incorporate some people that are in our lives that I think their stories are worth sharing. So today we're going to have our cousin Hilary on, our inside joke mentioned every time cousin. And she has a very interesting life and current career, which we're super excited to talk to her about. But before we jump in with Hilary, I thought we could start with what our what's good is, and then we'll kind of get into our like interview portion with Hilary. So Whit, do you want to go first?
Sure. My what's good is we're starting to feel better over here in my house.
Good.
Finally.
Gosh.
I can like confidently say that I'm still congested and I still have a little bit of a cough, but I feel like we're fully on the mend. And so I've been able to get things done around the house this weekend, and I still have mountains of laundry to put away, but I did vacuum and take down Christmas. So I feel like I'm really winning at this point.
That is a big win.
Yeah, it is.
We had Britton's birthday at the hotel Friday night. The hotel told us that we could not eat or drink in the pool area. So we had to cram like 12 people into the hotel room and eat pizza and cake. So that was interesting. But the kids had a great time. Spent the night, let them swim again the next morning. And then I felt like I had been hit by a train all weekend. So
nice.
But
yeah, I feel like when you're ramping up for a big event like that, it's like mentally you have to have a few days to come down from it. And that's really, it's like hard to do when you own a business because you don't really ever get like a mental break. So it's good to have the weekend to recover. I got to read I think I read 3 books this weekend. So that's always just a win when I get to like mentally check out. Like we were just saying, Phil was gone Saturday and part of yesterday. Well, he got home really early yesterday. So I guess he was just gone Saturday. And Saturday was like super full. I got to go to my cousin's or our cousin, so Katie's older sister's son's first birthday. And so all of our
Hilary's older sister.
Or what'd I say?
Katie's older sister.
Oh, sorry. Hilary's older sister, Katie, is what I meant to say. That did sound weird coming out of my mouth. And so Hilary was there, our guest of honor, and her husband, and then our cousin Lacey, who we don't really usually get to see because she's lived on the West Coast for the last few years. And that was just like such a gift to get to reconnect with her and my aunt and uncle. And our cousin Brendan and his wife Katie were also there. So it was just like super fun to be with family I don't get to see that often. And then I went on a walk with our best friends and their dog and their baby. And then I had other friends over for dinner. So it was a very full day. I literally like went nonstop between friends, things, and family. So yeah, it was fun. And then yesterday, another friend, I have so many friends. Another friend was moving into their new house, and I'd asked her if they wanted to hang out on Sunday, and she's like, "Oh, we're actually moving into our new house, but there's like an unpacking party." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love to unpack. Like, what time can I come over?" So it was like all the girls from my book club and their husbands that are really close with this couple, like all came. There was like 15 of us, and my friend Taylor was like, "Do you want to do my library?" And I was like, duh, like, do you even have to ask? So I got to organize her library, and that was so exciting. And then it made me want to get my library together because I just realized how fun it is and like how nice it is to have it all like organized so you can see it. She wanted to do it by rainbow. And then she wanted a Harry Potter like shrine shelf. And so that was really fun to organize all her like Harry Potter knickknacks. I don't dislike Harry Potter, but I'm not like a Harry Potter fan, you know. But it was fun because she has like a wand. So they're like details. I was like, this is so fun.
Did she get her wand at Universal Studios? Because that makes a big difference. What?
I think so.
Okay. So that makes a big difference in just having a random wand, because at Universal Studios, you can use your wand to like make like little things like
Oh, really?
appear and like, yeah.
That's
They
fun.
have these little like medallions in the ground, and you can go step on the medallion and like fling your wand around, and it will do like some little magic trick. It's actually really adorable.
Oh, that's cool. That makes me want to be a Harry Potter fan. But
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
like,
lot of fun things for Harry Potter fans.
yeah, like I don't feel like I dislike it. I'm not like super invested in comparison, but she has like the hardcovers, and then she has like paperbacks, and then she had like a special like book set edition, and then she had big coffee table ones. Like she had like a bunch of like collector's items. So that was really fun to organize.
Does she go
Um,
back through and reread them?
I mean, they looked like they were like had been read many, many times. So I know my friend Rachel, who's like the biggest Harry Potter fan I've ever known, reads or listens to Harry Potter at least once a year. Like I know some people do it like annually or multiple times. She said it's like her comfort like thing, or she'll listen to it when she's going to bed.
Yeah, I feel like that makes a difference too, because a lot of times, or at least our generation, they grew up with these books because she was writing them as people were like, you were reading them as she was writing them.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it also kind of pinpoints different like memories for people, like cozy reads and like just like a fun little world for our generation as they were growing up. So I can understand that. I didn't read them as she was writing them, so I'm not like one of those like Harry Potter stans, you know?
Right. See, I love
But
the first one, which is Chamber of Secrets. I love that movie. And then
the Chamber of Secrets was the second one, I
oh
thought.
wait, what's the first one?
Um,
No,
I mean,
Sorcerer's Stone is the first one.
yeah, Sorcerer's
And
Stone.
then Chamber of Secrets, then Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I really like Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is no one's favorite. So that makes me the weirdest Harry Potter fan.
See, I like that one. That was where it started getting like they get progressively darker and like
Yeah.
more serious. And so I feel like that was the one where things started to like take a turn from being like a children's book to like now like young adult.
I also was terrified in theater in I think it's the last one where Voldemort and Harry are like having that battle at the grave or whatever that thing is. I like genuinely was like, this is too spooky for me. Like, I was actually scared. And I saw it with Phil and he's like, it's fake. And I'm like, I know, but I feel really nervous. I had my hands over my eyes like the whole time. But yeah, I'm trying to think of, I guess there's a lot of other things I feel much more nostalgic about, but I like want to be part of Harry. What do Harry Potter fans call themselves? Like believers. There's
Potterheads?
no Potterheads?
Is that what they're called?
Maybe.
Potheads?
No idea. You know who we should have on next is Rachel Lovejoy, and have
I know. We should talk to her about her Harry Potter obsession and have her fill us in on all the folklore, the LARPing, if you will. That's what it's called. That's really funny. Anyways, I'm a fake Harry Potter fan for sure. Like I'll enjoy them. I'm kind of like that with Taylor Swift. Like I really like Taylor Swift. I always listen to her albums. She's always like my top played artist. But like, am I going to pay $2,000 to get a concert ticket? No. You know what I mean?
That's what her
Yeah.
secret's going for.
Yeah, like I probably won't buy the merch. I like somehow when the new album was coming out, I got on Swift Talk on TikTok and I was trying to understand everyone's like theories and Easter eggs, and I was just so lost. And like these Swifties, they like know all the lyrics, and like they're like, well, this lyric is about this person, and this is about the house she bought in Connecticut, and this one is about this cleaning lady in here. And you're like, what? Like it just I was like so lost because I don't know the meaning of the lyrics. I don't listen to lyrics, which drives Phil crazy.
like that's like extremely smart marketing, but at the same time terrifies me. I wouldn't want people knowing all my business like that, you know?
Well, I think that she stopped writing about her own life. Like now she writes like about other stories that aren't specifically her. But yeah, like these fandoms that are like really crazy. Like I want to be a part of them, but I don't know how to fit in, you know? Like I'm just like, where I feel like such a fraud. The only one I feel like I can even like stand on, what is it, 2 feet? Wait, have a leg to stand on? What's the phrase?
Yeah,
Have a leg to stand on.
you can either stand on your own 2 feet or you have a leg to stand on.
Okay. Well, I have 2 legs and I'm standing on both of them in the book community because that's the only place that I feel like I can is like like if anybody asks me for like a book recommendation or if I've read a book, chances are I either know a review or I have read it. So
do you feel like though that the book community and Taylor Swift community and like the Harry Styles community, they all run very closely together?
yeah.
Or
Well,
overlap?
Harry Styles for sure. Harry Styles fans are young though. And I feel like the book community is like late Gen Z, early millennial.
Yeah.
Like,
But I feel like
most book talkers are not over 35.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't think they're very old, but I feel like if you like books, you probably also really love Taylor Swift.
Totally.
And if you also love Taylor Swift, you probably all really like Harry Styles too.
Yeah, so I feel like such a fraud because I like want to be part of these other communities because I'm part of the book community. But yeah. Anyways, that was a really long tangent. What was it? Oh, I
think there's a spider on my floor. Hold on.
I was just trying to figure out where I had come from to get to this. Taylor's library. Okay, great.
Oh yeah.
It just dips out of view to go for a spider.
I thought it was a spider, but it's actually just a piece of fuzz.
Oh, that always gets me.
Scary.
You ever been in the bathtub and this happened to me recently and like a spider comes into your bath?
Mm-hmm. That happened to me the last time I took a bath. I was like doing an Epsom salt bath with like essential oils to try to clear my sinuses and everything. And I was just sitting there because you have to sit there for like 20 minutes in the magnesium salt. So I'm just sitting there. And then all of a sudden I see that I'm floating in here with like two daddy long legs. And I'm like,
oh my God. That happened to me too with a daddy long leg. I think they come out in the wintertime because they're cold. They're just
their long legs are freezing.
They're like, I don't have skinny jeans for these long legs. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna hop. Just imagine. I'm just thinking about a daddy long legs with like a pair of jeans on each leg.
Tara didn't understand your joke.
I know it wasn't very funny, to be honest. Okay, so we're gonna hop right into our interview with Hilary. So Hilary has kind of an interesting story of kind of where she's started and where she is now as far as like her career and dreams and passions. She's also married to a famous Olympian, a silver medalist, and that's kind of a cool story. And then also she is now a bodybuilder, which is a very cool profession, I guess you could say. And so we wanted to kind of interview Hilary and talk to her about that just because we've been so health focused and like health forward on the podcast. And we've mentioned her so many times. We're like, we should just bring her on. So anyways, without further ado, here she is.
That's like perfect timing.
We just gave you a raving intro and you were like locking in as we were like, and now here's Hilary.
That's perfect. I was like so anxious. I was literally just like sitting here in my kitchen, just like twiddling my thumbs and like the dogs. I'm like, are you okay? What is going on? So I'm like, essentially like staring at a wall. Yeah.
So funny.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you guys and hang out. This is so fun.
Okay. So Hilary, we just told everyone about you a little bit, but they don't really know the inner workings and the inner depths of Hilary Johnson. So I'm just kidding. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay.
Well, obviously we've said this a million times, but you're our first cousin.
Yes.
So your dad and our mom are brother and sister. So that's how we know you, but let everyone know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm Hilary. Hi, everybody. I'm 30 years old. Oh my gosh, what do I even say? I'm married to my best friend, Steele. He's the best. And I have two dogs, two Australian Labradoodles named Aspen and Forest. And they're literally the love of my life. Like I would take a bullet for them 100%. But yeah, I I went to school for biology and after that became a strength and conditioning specialist. I just loved like health and wellness. And then once I got married, I kind of got burnt out doing that. And so I just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be a full-time photographer. And I literally like, that's how it went down. I literally just like announced it on Instagram and was like, hire me for whatever, whether it be like engagement photos or weddings. I had given like a little thought to it, but I really just like went full force into it, like right after we got married. So, and I accomplished everything I wanted to with that. I was able to do that 5 years full time and do engagements, weddings, elopements. I got to do some destination work. So I feel like I was just able to like accomplish everything I wanted from that. But then when we moved again, I was ready for like another fresh start. So I really miss the health and wellness industry. And I felt like if there was anything like I could talk about, that's what I wanted to talk about. Like that was just like what kept coming up and what I was like so excited to be living out myself and like what I wanted to like engage with others in. So I just felt like that was really like kind of like the pull I needed to take a step out of photography, get back into the health and wellness industry, but this time it be like more for myself. So I helped like a few like friends and family members. But I really did like a lot of like self-searching and kind of figured out like the groove and like the pace of life that worked for me and my husband so I could best support him and I could bring the best version of myself to the table. So everything is really small scale. And I'm in this fun season where I kind of get to like pursue my own thing and my own personal journey with that. And hopefully still be able to encourage other people along the way, but I'm not working full time. I wouldn't even say I'm like working part time. I've pretty much like I've sold off a lot of my photography gear. I've got like one elopement coming up and then I'm pretty much like closing the books on that. And we'll just do that for friends and family when they want me to. So I feel like I'm in like a very like sweet spot in the spot that I've been praying for a really long time. And I have like the most amazing husband who's been able to support me and encourage me in that and like help me like own this season that I'm in. And I don't even know if I would say season. I mean, I guess everything is a season, but I truly feel like I'm doing what I'm passionate about and like what I like hope to like live out like for the long haul. So I feel like sometimes I say season because I want like I still feel like insecure about the fact that I'm not working full time or really even part time, but I truly am doing like what I love and I'm passionate about and like what works for my husband and I so that we both can just like bring the best version of ourselves to the table for others and for our marriage as well. So
I actually want to touch on that in a minute, but going back to your like journey to start out, because you originally wanted to be a doctor.
yes.
Or like or like nurse, or what was it like, or physician?
No, I wanted to go to medical school. So I got my degree in biology and was pre-med, did all of my volunteer work, shadowed doctors. I went to a MCAT like prep summer camp out in Colorado. And I did that whole thing, took the MCAT. Was getting my recommendations like together to like start the application process. And then my like classic quarter life crisis hit so hard. And you know, when you're talking about medical school, it's just like not something you want to go in like half-hearted. And it was really scary because that's what I wanted to do my entire life. Like I went through like a pretty large phase of wanting to be like a marine biologist and like live on a boat and like study sharks for a very long time. I think every kid kind of goes through that though, maybe. But you know, when you live in the Midwest, like in your land bound, that's like really hard to like pursue or even look into. But yeah, that was what I want to do for the longest time. And so it was really a really hard season when I decided that I was gonna at least take a step back for a year and see like if that's something I would want to revisit. I just started, I don't know, I've always kind of had like anxiety since I was a kid, but it really got amplified through school and the thought of like committing the next 8 years of my life to something. I mean, I knew that all along. That wasn't like a shock. Like, wait, what? Like medical school is 4 years and then another 4 years for residency. Like I knew that all along, but it kind of started hitting different as I was an adult. And so that's when I decided to become a strength and conditioning specialist. So I could still like work in like health and wellness, but a completely different side of it.
Yeah.
And then once I got into it, I felt like that really stuck for me. I mean, I still went back and forth for a long time, but strength training and like nutrition and that side of healthcare was what really, really excited me the most, because it was also something that I was like personally living out, and just like seeing how that was like changing my life made me really excited that I kind of like found my niche for all of that.
Yeah. So I want to touch on this question because this is something I feel like I've struggled with a lot. And I think that I've always really admired about you is like, I want to like normalize changing your mind, like, I think that, like, it's okay that like
Oh
you
yeah.
started in something and then like whether you or the Lord has like changed the trajectory of your path. Like we were talking about this with Isaac's cousin who was having like a really sweet conversation with us. And I said like, I struggle with the shame of how much we've changed and like pivoting so many times. And he's like, okay, every business has pivoted 15 times. And if you don't, you're dumb because you're like so fast, And so I think that there's like this like stigma in your brain that other people are thinking about it more than you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why didn't she go to medical school? Because when you said you were going to switch, I was like, cool. Like I literally didn't think anything of it. But how did you get past that like mindset, or did you struggle with the switch, like the major life switch?
I honestly struggled with it up until like last year. It was really hard. I think I put so like that was like going to be my identity, and I always really struggled with and I think this plays into like even bodybuilding now, but I really struggled with pretty much feeling like mediocre at everything I tried, So like I just didn't feel like I was special or like I had my thing. And when I got into college and I loved science so much and the human body, I was like, this is my thing. This is going to be the thing that I excel at. And I'm going to go for it and go like as far as I possibly can. And in my mind, that was like, I'm going to go to medical school. And I truly loved my time, like volunteering and shadowing different doctors and everything. Like, that wasn't the thing that really like pulled me away from that. I honestly just think it was like that was a total God thing. But no, I really struggled with it because so much of my identity was wrapped up in that. And I had been reminded of that by, just like people like, oh, I thought you were going to do this because I talked about it so much. And then completely pivoting and then going into photography was exciting, but also like, I think maybe for myself, even confusing. I was like, why am I doing this? And then I had to kind of revisit this whole fear of like, what if I'm just mediocre at it? What if I'm just okay at this? And what if I don't want to do it long term and I change again? And I did. But each time, I don't know, I just feel like God showed me like the why and like how it truly was best for me in that time and in that season. And now going like back to health and wellness, but without an actual job title to it anymore. And just doing it for myself. I think like, yeah, I just truly feel like it was like a God thing that he just really like, no job was going to give me any sort of like validation and in my identity, that I was searching for, because everybody in my mind around me like had their thing and I was always looking for mine. And really that spoke to a deeper issue of just really feeling like worthy and enough as a person, instead of like trying to find the thing that I thought would like give me worth. And so even in photography, I was like, what if I can't take this to the level that I want to? What if I never book a destination wedding? Or what if I never shoot this style or this way or this direction that I'm seeing other people do? And I'm inspired by like, what if I never get there? And then, now experiencing that with like now bodybuilding. So I feel like God has been just doing like a huge work in me and just trying to like show me and teach me that I'm enough, like apart from all of these things.
Totally.
And I think that's what gives me like the peace and like the transitions from one thing to another. But that was definitely not like an overnight process. Like I really, I grieved all of that for sure. And, you know, I come from like a, you know, a father who's like very successful in his businesses. And he's been doing this same thing like his entire life, you know, and he has had this like one mission and he knew, and that's what he's doing like 40 years later. And so I think that that was kind of my like example and like a pressure I was putting on myself to also have that kind of story.
Yeah.
So
Coming from someone who knew what they wanted to do from being like little on up, like seeing my dad's sketchbooks and then like all of a sudden diving in, doing sketches and just knowing like that's my identity. I'm like the artistic one. I'm the creative one.
mm-hmm.
And then you get your degree and what you like are good at. And then you realize you can't make money with this degree and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Like, I feel you on that. Like, even what I'm trying to say is even people with thinking they knew their identity, it doesn't always amount to success or even really that being their identity to begin with. So I think we're all just trying to make it work.
Yeah, we're all like figuring it out. And I think that's like, it's just a great space now to be like an adult and like walk through those different transitions and have like a new grace like for yourself, and even like looking ahead and just holding a little looser to like what's ahead and just being more in surrender. And that can feel scary, but it also like brings like, that's what is bringing me like the most peace, is not having my 5, 10, 15-year plan. Like I have big dreams and goals, but ultimately being surrendered to like the details and the trajectory of things. So
yeah. Tara, do you want to add anything?
No, I was just going to echo though what Whit said, because I didn't ever think that my career would end up in automotive and or retail. Those are the two things that were the furthest from what I thought I would be doing. And especially graduating, like thought I was going to go on to law, and then decided that I hate to read. And then I went to ISU to get like a degree in interior design and also business. And they didn't have me down for interior design. So they only had me down for business. And they're like, you can graduate early with this, or you can wait a year and a half to get into this program. And I was so sick of school by that point. I was just like, I'll just do the business. But then when I got done, I was like, well, now what do I do? You know, business is so broad. Like, where do I want to go? And so I totally get that. Like, where it's, because the one thing that I felt like I was always good at was party planning. And that was kind of what I went after school was over, and it just wasn't working out for a position. And I ended up working at a car seat assembly, you know, plant, working in engineering, which was so not anything that I ever had a desire to do or interest in. And it was so out of my comfort zone. And so I'm like, I just think everybody's like, that's your end goal may be one thing, but your destination to get there can look very different. There's lots of like intertwining. And now
I was just going to say, I like what you said, how there's a lot of peace in the surrender, like surrendering all the details. I think all three of us can confirm just within the last month of complete hell that we've been living through, there's for sure a ton of peace in the surrender, even just the little details, but even big details about what your identity is going to be, even though really it's just wrapped up in what God wants you to do.
Well, and I was going to add to this too. I had a friend that, well, I'm still really close friends with this person, but she was talking about like a relationship that she was once in. And I think this applies to life paths when you can make any big decision, whether it's like career focused or relationally. But she was like, it would have worked with that person, but it wasn't God's best. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like that relationship would have failed into divorce. Like, it probably would have been okay. But she was like, because it ended, then I ended up with this person. And for both of those people, you know, they ended up with someone else that was God's best. And I feel like there shouldn't be shame into saying goodbye into something that you once thought was. And also, it's very real to grieve like you said, not only dreams, but also like expectations of what you thought was going to happen in your life. And then also like there's a really weird and painful process of like removing your identity from your profession. Because like you said, a couple months ago at Bible study, you were like, someone asked you like, what are you doing? Because you had just quit the job of you were like working for an app company, right? Where I don't know can I talk about this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I didn't mention it because it was, like a 5 month.
It was like short
It was
lived.
short lived. Yeah. But yeah, it was basically being a performance coach. So like an online trainer.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Like an app company. And someone made a comment, was like, what are you doing for work? And you were like, I think I'm just gonna not. And then like, but what I thought was really cool about this was one of my best friends, Brittany Moses, was like, let me speak into you really quick and just say like, that's okay. Like she was like, I have done all these jobs and making not very good money to like be in this place where, and obviously, there's a reality if like you can't have a 2-income family, I get like for a season that this might not be realistic for everybody, but like if you can make it work within your budget and you can contribute in other ways, like she was like, I have a husband who has like a really insanely high stress job where he's expected to perform at a certain rate and level. And she's like, it's actually better for me to be like essentially like a homemaker. That's like not a really great word, but like being able to support him in his career so that he can be more successful. And she's like, whether that's like meal prepping or providing or doing all the other things in their lives that supports him best to be most successful. But then she still has like the hobbies and things that she gets to do that are still feeding her as well. And you were like, yeah, I mean, like if I'm going to move into the season of bodybuilding, like it's not necessarily going to be like a career, but you still have, I guess like, or you can speak to this too, because I want to get into steel as well, but like you still have a lot of ability to like pour into your husband who does have like, one, he's a high profile influencer because of what his profession is, but also like him training and like the whole Olympic side of his job is like very high stress, very pressured, like all eyes on him. And then he also is working a full-time job right now. So between like all the training, like there's like a huge role in you to be a support system to someone like him with an incredibly like high profiled type of work. And I feel like that gets dismissed a lot in women of like what our role is in the home. And just because it doesn't necessarily always mean like a monetary value, it could be pushing a different monetary value in your spouse. And I think that that's important to like normalize and also like not pass shame onto, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, our story has definitely like been unique. I think photography was so awesome when we were living back in the Midwest because he was traveling nonstop when he was diving full time. And he was a student for the first like 2 years of our marriage. And he was just traveling all the time. And I was like, well, if you're gone, like I want to be gone too, So, I started like picking up destination work and really like marketing myself for that. And then once we got to Nashville, I really just like wanted to like be present and like be in Nashville. Like the travel was super cool on my end, but at the end of the day, like I just wanted to be in like my own bed and like with my dogs and just be with Steele and actually like enjoy the city we're in. We were living in a small town in Indiana, and so I was like, there's nothing to do, so I might as well travel as much as I possibly can. Yeah, it's been really interesting since we moved, and he's not training full time now. He's working a full time job while also nursing an injury and also trying to like continue diving on top of that. Like literally today, he's working 8 hours, going right to physical therapy for 2 hours, and then going right to diving for a few hours right after that. So I won't see him till like 10:30 tonight. And that's not every single day, but when I was working and when we were here, when I was working full time, we just like kept missing each other, and my mental health was declining. Like he was really stressed. I would definitely say like I have a smaller capacity. I guess it's all relative. I have a smaller capacity though in my head in comparison to my husband. Like he can have like a million things on his plate. He thrives off of adrenaline. He likes a challenge. He's very competitive. Like being an athlete, all of those things like totally make sense. And I can have like one thing going at a time for myself. And even that is like a lot. And so when I was working, he would be doing like 8 different things. And then on top of like taking care of like cooking and taking the dogs out and getting groceries and things like that. And it just was really, really draining for us. And so I had been praying since 2022 that God would provide a season or literally just provide for us financially for us to go down to like one income so that I can just like take a whole step back. Because at the end of the day, like I love him and like my passion is like being at home and taking care of the home and taking care of the dogs and just being able to like create a space for him to feel rested and restored and rejuvenated, especially during a season where his job is difficult. He's been through 4 surgeries and is still like experiencing like the residue of that. And then also like going from training full time to training part time. And I think that's been like a really interesting transition for him as well. So if I can support him by taking care of the home so that he can come home and like feel like he can bring like his best version of himself because he doesn't have like a million other things to do the second he gets home. That's just been like the best thing for us. So, and like now like wanting to pursue bodybuilding for myself, or I guess I have been pursuing it. Him being an athlete, he just like totally gets it, which is so awesome. And I definitely don't feel like I'm like not a natural born athlete. Like I was just so bad at everything I tried growing up. And once I found strength training, like I felt like I really found something. And so he's just been incredibly supportive. He understands like the seasons of it and like the time that it takes. And so he just understands and he's so supportive of that. And it's cool. Like I've been like supporting him since we've been together in his full-time career as an athlete. And while mine is nothing like the scale that he's doing, like he's now, it's kind of switched a little bit. I mean, he's down to part-time, still hoping to do that more in the future. He's not retiring, but now he kind of gets to like watch me in my journey and help me because I mean, he just has like is much more like a natural born athlete and has the mindset and the skills and has had all of the coaches and teammates and he just knows how to put in the work. And so I've been trying to learn as much as I can from him in that. So that's been a really cool experience.
We didn't really introduce Steele, so I guess you could tell us what he does. I guess he's a diver, but if you want to tell like his background or like what he does as an Olympian. And then I think it'd be fun for you to share like a little bit of your experience being an Olympic wife or like you got to go to the Olympics. I feel like that's stuff no one knows because no one knows Olympic families. So like maybe tell us something that like people don't know or what's the hardest thing about it or something like that.
Okay. So Steele's a diver for Team USA. He's been diving since he was like 9 years old, I think. And by the age of 11, he was put on the national team and went full time. And the next youngest kid was 16. So he was like, they knew really early on that he was going to go to the Olympics. Like the coaches had picked him out pretty early that he would definitely make it someday, which I think is so fun and so cool. So he traveled full time and was homeschooled all through high school, and then was an Olympic alternate for the 2012 Olympics. And then in 2016, he went to the Rio Olympics for 2 events and then got a silver medal in one of them. So after that, he continued to dive for Purdue University full time while also being a student and still do stuff with Team USA while also being an athlete for Purdue. And then in that time, he well, I guess a year before the Rio Olympics, he ended up breaking his foot. But if he was going to get surgery on it in 2015, it would have knocked him out for potential to go to the 2016 Olympics. So he actually got a silver medal on a broken foot, which I think is so awesome. So I'm like, imagine what you can do with 2 healthy feet. This is crazy. And so he had 3 surgeries from 2017 to 2021 and just had his 4th one, but each one has essentially failed. So he's still been able to like dive and just do an unbelievable amount of physical therapy and pain medication and cortisone injections and all the things, but nothing's really worked. So, and then in 2021 for the Tokyo Olympics, that pain kind of hit a critical point literally a week before Olympic trials. And so he ended up diving through part of the Olympic trials and then ended up having to pull out. And that was something I knew. I just knew, I saw it coming. So that was a really, really sad moment because it's just everything you work for. But at the same time, like he's so grateful for already being able to represent his country once and not only just go, but also get a medal. So now he's working full-time as a social media specialist. So, and then he does a lot of his own social media stuff through Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. And he just like loves that stuff. And is diving part-time with hopes of competing next year. It's crazy. It's already next year at the Paris 2024 Olympics, but we're just holding loosely to that just because his injury has been so persistent. But we met literally the year of the Olympics. We were only dating for a few months before I ended up going to Rio and watching him. So that was really cool. I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. Like I didn't really know what was going on. And I had like a little bit of a glimpse of how weighty and huge this was, but I just hadn't been in the process with him long, but I got to experience it with his family and they have been supporting him since he was a little kid. And so that was an extremely emotional experience. I still cry like when he qualified for the Olympic trials and when he got a silver medal. There's videos all over YouTube. He just breaks down crying in the water and I just like choke every time I see it. But yeah, and then we were only dating for 8 months, engaged for 5, but it's been interesting as far as being an athlete's wife. I think what helps is I'm pretty like introverted and I'm a homebody and I'm also like really good at like being by myself. So the amount of travel that he's had to do over the years, it really didn't stress me out or anything. He just loves traveling and he's done it his whole life. And he just like thrives in new countries with, just all of the cultural experiences that he gets to have. And so I always just feel so at peace and just chill when he's traveling. And I usually just go home with my dogs and spend some extra time like with my parents or something. But yeah, I think it's a lot like watching your husband have like a normal job. It's just a lot more of a physically taxing job. And so, but I think once we hit the all of the foot surgeries, that I think has been the hardest thing is just watching. I mean, he's pretty much been in either like a boot or a scooter or on crutches since I've met him. So almost like 6 years straight now. We have like an unbelievable amount of like orthopedic stuff in our apartment, like hidden under our bed. So if anybody needs anything, I got you covered. I think that's been probably like the hardest thing, is just watching your person like go through injury and go through so many surgeries, and almost get to a point where there's doctors are saying there's nothing more we can do for you, like you might not ever be able to dive again. And when you've been doing that your entire life, like you've been doing that for like 15 or 16 years, actually probably longer, I'd have to do the math, but like 16 or 17 years, like it's just really hard. And that's been like a big transition, is like watching watching that happen and just plans change, I guess, when you're an athlete or an Olympic athlete, you schedule things out, like you plan in chunks of 4 because the Olympics happen every 4 years. And so you kind of have this really large and long like trajectory and timeline of how you want things to work out. So I think it's just been hard to like, you never want to see like your husband leave his sport before he's ready. Like, I don't know if you're ever really ready, but you definitely don't want like your body to be the reason that, you're stopping. So I think that that's probably been like the hardest and most interesting thing to walk through, is just like through sickness and in health, and like 4 surgeries has just been a lot. And the last one, I had a broken foot as well. So we both were like in boots and on crutches, and we were like, this is super stupid.
Before we move on, do you guys want to add anything?
No, I'm good.
What? Oh, wow. I was like, I feel like I'm not letting you guys talk, but you're just like happy as clams over there, just smiling and nodding your head.
It's just so fascinating.
I know. I am so interested.
I do want to hear more about your bodybuilding journey though.
Yes. Well, I was going to say before we move on from Steele, one thing I have always really appreciated about him, speaking of identity, is when I think this was like last May, we had dinner with you guys and Katie and Jared at Katie and Jared's house. And, you're just making conversation. And I was like, how's your foot? And he's like, not good. Like he answered just like that too. And I had no idea really until last fall, like kind of that conversation, and then like the severity of where it was at. Just because we, we're praying about it at Bible study and just like having more intentional conversations about like, how can we be praying for healing and into this. Whitney thinks I might have the gift of healing. So honestly, maybe I need to lay hands on.
Come over.
I'm just kidding. I don't know if I do. I wish I did. We actually, our mom's friend does. So maybe we need to organize something. But anyways, I had said something and I was like, do you feel devastated? And he was like, no, my sport's not my life. And I was like, wow. And he was like, yeah, like, he was like, if all goes to crap, I'll just become a paraplegic Olympian and I'll just do that. And he was like literally so hands like open with it, which he was obviously being cheeky and just kind of like, whatever, but I was like, for someone who's dedicated his life to something so specific, it was nice to see that he was like, this is not my identity. If it goes away, I'm going to be okay. Like life moves on. And for most people, it would feel like your life is crumbling, which on certain days, maybe it does feel that way for him. Sure. But like, he has such like a joyful outlook on things. And like, I think that his perspective of it is so, like important. Like you said, like it's painful to surrender, but it seems like he's okay with like, I have this like beautiful life and family outside of diving. And if it goes away, like I'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like God's still good. And that's a really like hard place to get to for so many people. I feel like we just got there with our own business of just being like really open-handed with it and asking God for direction in every single step. But then if for some reason God had a different plan for us, then we would be like, it's okay, And I know that we spoke about that with your career as well, which I think is, it's a hard place to get to.
For sure. Sometimes I'm like projecting my own insecurities on my identity. I'm like, but aren't you like so sad? Like, do you need to cry about it? And he's like, I'm fine. Like, it's literally going to be okay. I'm like, but is it? Like, and so we've had our moments. It's more me sometimes.
I know. With our like infertility stuff, I just wish I've said this a million times. Like, I really wish I could live in Phil's head for one day. Cause I'm always like, this sucks. And he's like, well, I can't do anything that my sperm sucks. So like, what do I do? Like, I can't control my sperm. Like, it's just like, what do you do about it? Like, he's like bummed, but he's like so unbothered by it. And I'm like, I just wish I could be like a non-stressed person for like 24 hours and just see what it feels like. But yeah, Steele's like, he's He's like a golden retriever. He's like so happy, so social, loves people. He's so funny. Like I wasn't expecting him to be so funny. Very witty, like incredibly quick-witted. And I just always really look forward to like spending time with you guys because both of you are so easy to be around, but you're just so like we can go from having like hilarious conversation to like dive really deep and all be in tears within 5 minutes of each other, which I think is really sweet. Okay, so we do want to dive into your bodybuilding journey, and Whitney obviously has probably more to like talk about this with experiencing a whole year of not trying to be a bodybuilder, but you did like the workouts and you worked with the same coach that Hilary did. Whitney's like, no.
We did not do the same workouts, I can assure you.
Well, not the same workouts, but you had the same bodybuilding coach.
Yes, that's about where the parallel stops.
Well, you did the lifestyle program of this coach. I won't say her name, but and then Hilary was doing the actual like bodybuilding program. So I've actually worked with a bodybuilder physical trainer for a really long time. And she was saying like back in the day when you wanted to become a bodybuilder or just a personal trainer, you used to have to like take written tests. Like you couldn't just go online, to become like a personal trainer. And she was like, you literally would be like, what is this muscle right here? And what does it do? And she's like, and I had physical like textbooks. Like, it's so crazy how it's evolved and changed like technology over time. But anyways, so I feel like I had a little bit of exposure about like the shows, and she also makes bikinis for the competitions. She like does, she has a business called Chiseled in Stone where she like bedazzles the outfits. And then she also does posing training. So like I had seen all of her stuff. So I feel like I understood it a little, but I feel like most people don't really know like the art of the competitive nature of bodybuilding. So one, I want to know what made you decide to do it. And two, I want you to talk about competing a little bit and just like maybe it's some things that are funny about it that like you thought were interesting once you got to know it, or like maybe like highs and lows or something.
Yeah. So I had been strength training for like about 7 years, like straight, before working like deep with a coach to like really get into the nitty-gritty stuff. So I feel like and when I first started working with my coach, or my old coach, I was just a lifestyle client as well. Like, I think I had it in the back of my brain, but I didn't really want to tell her in case she would like hold me to it someday to like actually want to compete. But yeah, so I feel like, I had already like I was already almost kind of like living the lifestyle of it. Without maybe getting super nitty gritty into the nutrition. Like I knew the basics of nutrition and knew how to like macro count and everything, but to really have like that accountability, I felt like that was my missing piece. And so I feel like what it has helped me so much is like I already like am living out the lifestyle, and I already love the lifestyle so much. I think when you get into competing just for competing, and you just because you want to like look a certain way, like you're going to get eaten alive in the process, because it does get so nitty gritty. So yeah, I've been strength training for like a long time, and I was a lifestyle client of hers. And then as I was kind of starting to shape up a little bit, she was like, she actually asked me if I wanted to compete one day, and I like totally ghosted that message. I was so nervous, and I didn't really like want to pull the trigger, but she convinced me to do it, and just to see how it would go. I was already, again, like living out everything. I was doing the nutrition, I was doing the strength training. I had good balance like in my life at that time. So she encouraged me to do it. And I was like very nonchalant about the process. I don't think I was probably as detailed as I needed to be for that first show, but I ended up doing great, and I loved it so much. I was like, I'll just try this once. If it doesn't go great, like it's fine. If I hate it, like it's fine. At least like I said, I tried it. And honestly, like the whole process was just so fun for me. It was so fun to see what my body was capable of doing. And I'm not like a glam person by any means. So I was very, very, very intimidated by the heels and the suit and the tan and everything. But I just felt so awesome, like on my first show. And I did great. So that was like a big confidence booster, like that maybe I had it like in me to pursue this. Um, and so, yeah. And so I went into like my improvement season, and basically you have like your improvement seasons. Nothing's really an off season. I think if you take bodybuilding seriously, you have to take your improvement season seriously as well. Like you definitely have like more flexibility and more time back, more like food freedom and everything like that. So, and then I competed again this past fall. But my hope is to get to the national stage this year and hopefully one day go pro. But I'm definitely open to that timeline. Some girls it happens in a year or two. Some girls it takes like 7 years. So, and the great thing with bodybuilding is you can do it for, I mean, forever. I mean, they have master's classes. They have like of like 35 plus. They have a 45 plus class. So yeah, I just really like love the lifestyle of it. And I think that's what is going to help me with like the longevity. It really isn't just like the show day. Like the show days like can be fun. But the work that goes into it is like what really gets me like excited. And I think that's what's going to help me with like the longevity of the sport. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say, would you say the worst part is the spray tan, or what would you say is the worst part?
My favorite story from your first show is when your legs just kept getting darker and darker.
Oh my God. Nobody look me up. They're so bad. Like my legs are like twice as dark as the rest of my body. And so obviously when I got judge feedback, they're like, you need to watch your tan. I'm like, I know, I didn't start exfoliating soon enough. Honestly, gosh, I mean, you're definitely stinky on show days. Like you don't shower, like you can't use deodorant for like the week leading up. You're just disgusting. I mean, but you're glammed up, but you're like underneath, it's disgusting. Everybody smells really bad.
I didn't know that.
When it's probably TMI, but like when you like go to the bathroom, you have to like have a styrofoam cup and like poke a hole at the bottom. Otherwise, like it'll splatter and get on your tan and like you'll be blotchy. And the bathrooms in there, because girls, like you're not supposed to like sit down on the seat, but like the toilets are just streaked with like tanning oil and they're just
That's so funny.
brown. It's so gross. So it is like an actually like disgusting, super non-hygienic day of your life. It's really gross and you just smell so bad and everybody's like anxious or just raging hungry and like your hormones are just out of whack. And so you're just not yourself. The hardest thing about bodybuilding in general, though, I think it's different per person, but nutrition is definitely the hardest. I have a huge appetite. Like I could eat circles around Steel all day long and he's got like a lot of weight and height on me. And I'm like social, like as far as like when I'm like hang out with people, like I like to commune around food. I always like, people always make fun of me because when people come over, I'm always like trying to feed everybody like to the max and they're like, chill, we're fine. And then they're just like, I'm so sorry, I'm projecting. Cause like when I go over, I just want to be fed. I want all of the yummy treats. I want the like cupboards and like pantry to be full. I want everybody to give me snacks. So I'm always like projecting and giving snacks to everybody. But yeah, I would say that's the hardest thing is just like finding that balance. And committing to it and sticking to it. I definitely wouldn't say I have like this natural, I don't know. I think some people are like probably naturally really good or like don't like care about food, but I care a lot about food. Like I have such a sweet tooth. And so I think it's just taken a lot of work and a lot of skill practicing to get to a place where like I genuinely love the food I'm eating. I'm eating food that makes me feel good. I'm not stressing about If I go to social situations and there's a whole bunch of treats, like I don't stress about that or feel like I have to have a bite of everything, or a bite of whatever Steele's eating. But that's taken like a lot of time. And so I would say nutrition is usually like the hardest part, but I started working with a therapist slash mental health counselor who specializes in like body image and food relationship. And that has been like the most transformative kind of counseling I've ever experienced. And I just really feel like, I didn't want to have to choose between like having a healthy relationship with my body and food or competing, because I love competing and bodybuilding so much. And she really stresses that I can find peace like with both of those things, like in the process. Like I don't want to have to give up one to have the other. And so that has been just such like a huge investment and like piece of the journey that I wish I would have started so much sooner, because I had like a lot of body image and weird food habits like even before I started bodybuilding. And it gets amplified then when you're checking in a bikini and your goal is to be like as small as humanly possible, like on stage while maintaining the most muscle you can. That definitely can like mess like with your mind. And so not just getting a coach for like the nutrition and strength training, but also like helping me with the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of that has just been like a really, really awesome piece to that all.
So that was one thing I wanted to, I guess, touch on, because I thought that part was really fascinating when you and I were talking at Thanksgiving, because you were talking about like, I think it's the improvement season where you gain back, like, slowly gain back weight, and just like even the mental like shift with that when you've gotten used to certain numbers on the scale, things like that. And just because I think that that's something that everybody can relate to, but like some of that is important in part of your season, but also it can also be the difference in muscle versus, I was just going to say, if you want to talk through maybe some of the mental piece of it, because there's obviously a lot of discipline that goes into the sport, but I think the mental part of it is one of the parts I think is the most fascinating.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing with bodybuilding, or what can be hard, is your weight is constantly changing. You're either in a season where you're trying to lose weight, or you're in a season where you're trying to gain weight, but trying to put on like as much lean muscle as possible and not just, eating whatever's in sight just for the sake of gaining weight. So that definitely was like a mental battle for me. I think many people can relate to like the scale scaries where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I do not want to have to step on the scale. And I really, really struggled with that, to be completely honest. I had a really negative, this past show, I had a really, really horrible outlook on myself. Like mentally, I just was not doing well. I was extremely frustrated, and I was using a lot of like damaging language about myself and about food. I'd step on the scale, and if the scale was up, I would feel so ashamed and I would feel guilt. And if the scale was down, then I would celebrate and feel like I actually did something, and I feel like I earned X, Y, and Z. And so I think one of the biggest things was learning that like the scale is a tool, just like a glucometer. Like if you're going to like test your blood glucose, the scale is not my cheerleader. The scale does not measure my effort. The scale doesn't owe me anything, So I think like that has been so helpful in just like learning that it is truly just a tool. And there's so many other things that are going on, and better things like to measure. And also like, if you want to reward yourself, don't look for the scale to reward you. So basically, we really, in my program that I worked with my counselor, we really like started looking at different things as far as, how do I want to word this? Oh my gosh, we just did so much work, and we're still working together. So, when it came down to like a meal, we would ask ourselves like, why we're eating this? What is this meal offering you? Are you going to measure it? If you are, why or why not? How are you going to feel after this meal? And we did that for every single meal. every single day. And it was a lot of work. But it really, really turned like my mind from having like a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, and from using like scarcity like language to like abundance language. I was very like, I struggled a lot with believing that like I can't have certain things. I shouldn't eat this. I can't have that. If I eat this, I have to go on an extra walk, or I have to like not eat earlier in the day to like save up for this meal, essentially. And I really, really, really like damaged my relationship with food and my body like this past season. And so side note, broke my season got cut short because I broke my foot a week after the show. And I was so upset. But looking back, that was just like the best thing that could have happened, because I was immediately pulled out of like that place and immediately started working with my mental health coach. And we were able to start working on this stuff. I feel like if I had gone any further, I would have like not been in, I would have been very unwell. So yeah, so we really just started like changing the way I was looking at food and really connecting with my values, my goals, and my commitments to myself. So all of this was just very skill based. Again, like I wouldn't say like being able to measure my food and stick to a plan is like not like a natural thing for me. We really, or at least I really fell on my face like a lot and had to get back up and let go of the shame and the guilt and find a new way, you know, to respond to myself when I would fall off plan, or if I would just eat something that wasn't on plan, or just was really struggling with like nibbling or whatever that was. And so I don't know, I think so much of it was just about like trying to figure out like who I wanted to be and like what my ideal relationship with food and my body was, and finding the walls that were keeping me from having that. And literally week by week, meal by meal, like chipping away at those walls. And so much of it came down to like the language that I was using with myself. It's just like the saying that like words like truly hold so much power. And so just like recognizing like, this is the version of myself I want to be. This is the kind of relationship I want to have with food. And this is what I want with my body. And believing that like I deserve to have those things, and owning it, like accepting the challenges and accepting the walls that are going to be there, owning it, and then like figuring out the tools that I needed to like really like chip away at those. I don't know if that's answering your question, or if I'm just totally starting to ramble now. I'm like,
in the practical sense, though, I think this is really healing for a lot of women to hear, whether or not they want to become a bodybuilder, which I'm sure not a lot of people. It's such like an amazing practice that like not everyone can achieve. I shouldn't say that they can't, that they probably wouldn't set out to achieve, but most women I feel like are on some sort of like self journey of figuring out this new relationship with body image and food, because we all lived through, like millennials lived through a generation of being told like diet culture is the right thing, you know? And so I feel like a lot of what you're saying would speak to people, even if they're not on a bodybuilding journey, you know what I mean? Like, I think we all can benefit from hearing like that you're saying, like you're looking at like how to tell yourself like it's okay for me to have this, or it's okay for me to want to have this goal, and like I deserve it, you know what I mean? Like I think that's something that like to connect the dots, that we all feel like you know what I mean, that we can all benefit from that type of terminology in our lives, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I just feel like, I think that's the thing, is like just recognizing like what you want for yourself and what you want for like your body and how you want to be able to approach food, and recognizing that like that's for you, and like that you do deserve that. And so, but like also like just recognizing and giving yourself grace that like it just takes so much time. And like, and we're, you know, we have the bodies for like the rest of our lives. So it's worth like taking the time. Like that program that I went through was extremely extensive, but it was only like 5 weeks, you know, in the grand scheme of things, for me to like heal my relationship with my body and hopefully have a healthy relationship with my body and with food for the next, however long I'm on this earth, like that time is worth it. And I wouldn't say it was like 5 weeks and I cured myself. I feel like I learned like a lot of like the practical tools and things that I needed. And I've been inviting God into it. And I feel like literally just at the turn of this new year, things really started registering in my mind and in my heart in a completely different way. But yeah, just like recognizing that like it's going to take time and that's okay. And that's like the beauty of it. And there's going to be one step forward, two steps back, it's not like a linear process by any means. And I don't have it figured out, but I'm committed to it because I know that like I'm bringing that, like, it's for me to be able to bring the best version of myself to the table for me, for others, for my husband, for my future children, and how I hope to raise them, and how I hope that they will learn to love themselves. And yeah, I just think it's always interesting because we do all have like a relationship with our bodies, and we all have our own unique relationship with food and how we view those things. And so I think, bodybuilding doesn't, and I want to say this, I feel like I definitely think that some people have a particular view of like bodybuilders and bikini competitors and competitors in general. And it's not that's unhealthy. It's not counting macros that like can create body dysmorphia or bad food relationships. It's just the agreements that you bring into those things. And I think that that's like the biggest thing is, macro counting and competing didn't bring me to this negative place, like for a season with my body and with food. It was things that I had been struggling with my whole entire childhood and my young adulthood. And it was things that I wish I would have worked on beforehand, but bodybuilding has brought it out, and I've been able to touch on it and view it and own it and work through it in a completely new and like freeing way. And so I'm really, really thankful for bodybuilding for that, because it did bring out things in me that I like don't love. But it's helping me like learn how to love those areas better for sure.
So for you, when you are in like prep season, what does a typical day like from a workout perspective? How many hours per day are you working out?
Yeah. So I guess each coach and competitor is different based off of like what they need to work on, or like how fast their metabolism is and how quick they can burn fat, burn food or whatever. So I usually go to the gym and like stretch for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then I do anywhere from like a 60 to 80-minute lift. And then we do stretching at the end. And then depending on the point in prep, you'll also be doing cardio. So cardio is probably usually pretty light to start with. But it also just depends on your body. Like for me, I definitely require like a lot more cardio. I require a bigger deficit. So this past time around, I was doing over 2 hours of cardio every single day on top of an hour and a half lift. So it was definitely exhausting and time consuming. I truly hope I never have to do that again. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I know girls who can get away with it without any cardio just because their body burns fat like and uses food a lot more efficiently. But this time around, I think it will be a little different. I'm doing a lot of blood work and lab work to just make sure that my hormones are in a good spot before we start cutting again. So I'm being very open-handed and patient with this improvement season process. And we won't start cutting until essentially my blood panels say like it's a good time to do that. And so getting blood work done, I think, is really huge. And that's been such a good piece to add into my story and my journey, because again, like your hormones play such a critical role in like your ability, your energy, and your ability to recover and to utilize food efficiently, burn fat, all of that. So Hopefully 2 hours of cardio won't have to happen, but I've watched like a lot of Netflix. Like I've gone through like every single show on Netflix possible this past season. So but I genuinely do enjoy it. You usually break it up. You do your strength training or fasted cardio and then eat, strength train, eat, and then maybe do another round of cardio later in the evening. So you're not like just sitting on like the treadmill or walking on the treadmill for like 2 hours straight. You usually break it up.
I think my favorite is when we saw you guys in 30A and you said you had to do speed walking on the beach.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I was like, whatever I have to do. That was right after my show too. Because you don't like compete and then you don't just like start eating whatever you want and then just stop doing cardio. You have to kind of like taper the cardio down, increase the food up slowly. Otherwise, your body's just like gonna store everything as fat because it's hungry at that point. So yeah, I was power walking my little tush off, but it was great. It was a better view. It was sunny. I could do that all day long.
So now what's your typical day like when you are in prep? Because prep season's 8 weeks.
Oh no, it's really dependent on how much you have to lose or how lean you have to get. So a normal like healthy prep is anywhere from like 16 to 20 weeks, sometimes more. But more is not necessarily ideal. It's really hard to mentally be in a prep for 20 weeks. I think my last one was like 22 weeks and I was like, no, thanks. I need out.
And I know you eat a lot of ground turkey, but like, what are some of the things that you like? What does your diet look like during prep season? Because I think that would be interesting to people.
Yeah. So actually prep and improvement season, again, improvement season is anytime you're not competing essentially. So like the rest of the year, the foods are very much the same. And the reason being is because, I mean, there's definitely more like food flexibility because you're just eating more food in general in the improvement season. But from that to prep is pretty similar because we're eating things that digest well and sit well on our body. You really don't, I mean, there's like, it's good to have like diversity in your diet. I definitely have like a good, healthy amount of diversity. But I'm not mixing things up so much where I don't know how things digest or are going to sit on my body. So, I mean, I'm eating a lot of the same foods that I will eat in prep, but just smaller portions in prep, like once we start cutting down my food. So, I mean, I maybe have like a pretty basic like bro diet, as you would call it. You know, lots of different kinds of like rices, lots of chicken, ground beef, ground turkey, fish, you know, a variety of vegetables like fruit and English muffins or oats. In the morning, maybe like a protein shake. So it's nothing crazy. It's nothing super, super interesting, but I kind of thrive off of routine. And it's also just a time saver where I'm not having to like think of like new meals and new recipes or anything like that. But I genuinely enjoy my food. I think the more you eat routinely, the more you enjoy it. It's definitely not fun to start because, you know, if you're like kicking out sweets or like pizza or whatever it may be, your body is going to crave those. But the less you have it, like the less you crave it. It doesn't mean that like, I mean, last night I brought my chicken and rice to a pizza joint with my family and I was sitting there and I was like, oh, wow, that looks really good. But, you know, to be able to look at my meal and like say a quick, like, thank you to the Lord, like, thank you so much for this amazing food. Like, I know I'm going to feel really good after it. I'm going to feel energized tomorrow. I'm not going to have like any like stomach upset or anything like that. Like, I've definitely been more mindful of that in social situations. It's just to practice gratitude, like with the food in front of you. And just bless others as they enjoy their food too.
I think that you guys went to Dicey's, right?
Yeah, we went to Dicey's.
That's amazing. I told them at Katie's her nephew's shower, I was like, if you want something that's like Monocle's, it's like a Nashville version of Monocle's pizza, which is like a local place that has like really small squares. It's so good. And it's definitely like more flavorful than Monocle's, even though I will take a bullet for Monocle's for sure. But it's really good and it's new. It's like within the last year, I think it's been open, and Phil's currently obsessed with it. So we've been twice. But
so if you had to pick a splurge meal, like what is your splurge?
My splurge meal, well, last season it was nachos. But it literally never sat well. I would do anything for nachos. I was like, I will take an upset stomach for like 3 days just to have nachos. This year, I'm playing it like a little more safe, but I genuinely enjoy it. I usually have like a burger and fries, like, and then maybe like a glass of wine. That has really been my go-to, and having some consistency with like your meals out again is just helpful for digestion, and in the future like what sits well on your body and what doesn't. So every once in a while we'll do something different, like we'll do like a tapas place, or Mexican food or something like that, but I know that I just usually don't feel as good, or like I know that I simply cannot leave a Mexican food restaurant without having like 6 baskets of chips, like just for myself. So yeah, I like a burger and fries, or like, we went to this one place, or we've been going to this place in Nashville, and I've been getting like a Korean fried chicken sandwich with like kimchi aioli and fries, and that slaps. So yeah, so that's my go-to right now, specifically French fries, emphasis on French fries.
Love that. To round out the episode, what would be your like best piece of advice, or maybe like 1 or 2 things that you would encourage women with? Maybe if they're like, because I think the thing that I've been so inspired with you by is we've been doing 75 hard, and Whitney's had her own like health journey the last year. And I feel like I always was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could work out for an hour and a half every single day, 7 days a week. And I think as you get into it, you're like, well, of course I could. Like, it's just like reorganizing priorities, or what are you putting your time into? And I've been in so many social situations, like even at the birthday party, I saw you heating up oats with fruit while everyone else is having like those cookies you brought. I'm like maxing out on the chocolate chip cookies that Hilary made. Cookies and cream chocolate chip cookies. And I thought they were going to be like gluten-free, because every Nashville birthday party is like, oh, it's like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, free. And I was talking to Lacey, and I was like, excuse me, I'm having a religious experience with this cookie. Is this gluten-free? And she was like, no.
Definitely not.
I literally texted my sisters about it and was like, Hilary made these cookies for. So anyway, she made us the fattening cookies. She got to eat her oatmeal. But like, you have like a sense of dedication where you're going to bring your meals to other places. And you've also worked through the like, it's okay if people say like, I feel bad that you're not eating this, or like, do you want dessert, or like having to offer you things, even though the answer is always going to be no. Like what they're basically, I'm getting at, like, there's a lot more discipline within you than you probably think there is. And I think it's okay for you to have a sense of being able to tell yourself no in situations. Like, it's healthy for us to have discipline in that. Like, what would be maybe some like life-giving advice that you could give someone who's on a health journey, but maybe struggling or wanting to start one?
Yeah. Gosh, I probably would sound like a broken record by saying it, but just really like asking yourself, like sitting down and like writing out like what kind of relationship you want, like with your body, what kind of relationship you want with food, like what your goals are, and recognizing like those aren't there just because they're there. Like, they're there because like you care about them, and because like you deserve them. And so I would say like just feeling really connected to that. I think recognizing that like staying true to like your goals and your commitments and your values like offers so much more like peace and satisfaction and joy like within yourself than like a momentary like meal that's going to be done, or or whatever it is. Like, there's nothing wrong with like eating out, but like if like food like is an area like that you really struggle in, or if it's getting to the gym, just recognizing that like sticking to your values and your commitments and your goals like to yourself, like that is going to offer you like so much more like peace in the long run. And just like being able to like give yourself grace for like the time frame of it, and like recognizing that like there's going to be fallbacks, there's going to be setbacks, but like this is for like longevity and this is for the long haul. And so I think just like being in surrender to like the timeline, I think that's why like diet culture is like still such an issue, is because everything offers this like quick, immediate satisfaction, this like quick result. And we're always looking for something that gives us the quickest result. And I think just like being gracious with yourself and giving yourself the time, and also like totally not being afraid to hire out. I think that is like the biggest thing. I think people can be really afraid to hire somebody because it means accountability and it means someone's actually going to be checking in with you. And that can be really, really intimidating. But like do your research and find someone that just like cares about you as a person and is going to support you. And if you need a little bit of accountability, like, you know, seek that out. If you are struggling with like your body image or your relationship with food, there are people out there like that will help you. I think like so many of us feel like, oh, like I'm 30 or I'm 35, I should have this figured out by now, you know, but I don't know. I just feel like that has been like such a huge area that has changed my life. So I would just totally recommend like admitting when like, okay, like old ways are not yielding new results. So it's time to try something new. And I feel like working on your mindset and like working with a coach to help you with that is going to be like probably like the biggest thing that I think changes people, because people can go through the motions. People can work out all day long or whatever. They can eat a piece of chicken, but to really have like, you know, to really experience like love for yourself and like recognizing that you like deserve these things, that takes like a lot more, that can just take more help. So hiring out, I think, would be what I would tell everybody to do. I'm a huge like person who's like into like therapy and counseling. And I'm just going to assume that I know nothing and that everybody else knows better than me. So I will hire out for almost anything.
Same.
I don't know if that was helpful. Shoot.
Oh my gosh, it was
really wordy.
No, I'm like holding on to things you've said in this episode. I'm like, okay, I need to do that. Like you've definitely said a lot of really life-giving and insightful things and tips. I feel like I said, regardless if your journey is wanting to be an athlete or you just wanting to make better changes, there's so many things that you said like that I think would be really freeing to a lot of people, which I think, you know, most of the battle of what we deal with is mental. And like, of course, the physical attributes kind of fall in place if you're in the right headspace. Like I remember you said your mental health coach was like, even if you need to every 5 minutes at like a social setting, be like, okay, am I okay now? Okay, am I okay now? Like every 5 minutes, like check in and be like, okay, I'm fine. I don't need the cookies and cream cookie. Like I'll be all right if I don't eat it. And I think that that's like, there's just all those little practical like nuggets that you've shared with us that I think will be so helpful to someone, you know, wanting to start one who's in the middle of starting, or just women in general listening to this, which I think will be great. So
cool. Good. I'm glad.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your story. I know that we like into a lot of different topics of your life, but you have such an interesting story to share. You really do. Your life, honestly. And I definitely feel like it'll help so many people. So do you guys want to add anything?
I think we need to end on Kate's favorite game, which is the compliment game of Hilary.
Yes. I love this game. Okay. So we're all three going to give you a compliment.
Oh my gosh.
Because we love ending. We didn't do it with Renee, our health coach.
I know. I just realized that we should have done it with her too. I forgot.
We gave her a lot of words of F, but okay. Who wants to go first? Whit? Okay. Tara, go first.
Well, one of the things that I has been like, I love watching your journey. Like, I think that that's one thing that's been super interesting. And I think that it takes a lot of guts to go into a sport like that, especially one that is non-traditional, from like the background that we've come from. And obviously probably super out of your comfort zone in a lot of scenarios, wearing, like you said, a tiny, teeny bikini. But I think watching that, like that whole process is super inspiring, and just seeing like the discipline that it takes to get there, and like all of the prep work like that you've done to be a part of it. Like watching from a distance, it's just one of those things that like I feel really proud to know you, but also it's inspired me in my own journey of like what I want to do and like what I want to like where I want to go in my own health journey. Because I feel like 75 hard has been one of the things that has like changed a lot of things mentally for me about what I thought, excuses I made for myself and lies that I believed. But in like kind of coinciding with that, like watching what you've been through and what you're doing. And then also like our chat, like at Thanksgiving and stuff, I just really appreciated that. And just hearing like, even, you know, in all of like the discipline that you have, that you are still, not that it's comforting to know that you're struggling mentally, but I just mean like to know that there is a normalcy in that it's not just like you're a machine, you know, like, and so that was one thing that I was, because you kind of watch it from a distance and go, dang, she just must never have an off day. Like she's just like on it, you know? And I think that that was something else that was like really helpful for me to watch and go, okay, she does have like days where she like needs a break, you know, like she's doing this and has like these super committed and like very detailed, but you know, you're still human. And so anyway, I just think it's been really cool to see everything that you've done and accomplished. And yeah, I just think you're super inspiring.
Yeah.
It's been fun to have
Thank you so much. I don't know how to accept these. It's so awkward. Like I'm starting to sweat, guys.
This is what everyone says.
At least you're in a season you can wear deodorant.
That's true.
Yes. Oh my gosh, guys. It's so bad.
So you already know that I think you are inspiring to the point that I signed up with her own coach as well. But one thing that I've always found to be not inspired, well, I mean inspiring as well, but I was trying to think of a better word for it. But one thing that really is helpful for me too is even the way you talk about your journey and your experience. It's not just like all fluff, like, oh, here's what I do, here's this. You talk about the ins and outs of it and actually like explain the heart of the matter of what you've gone through, but in a way that you actually get to the root cause of certain things. And I really appreciate that. It's like you come at it with just full honesty and just be like, yeah, this is what I do. This is how I've done it. It was not easy. I struggled with this, and this is kind of how I'm walking out of it. And it makes it so much, not easier, but it makes it so much more, and not attainable, because this is very difficult, but like it puts it in perspective for everybody else, kind of like what Tara was mentioning. But just even the way you talk about your journey and being so honest with it. I feel like I've had conversations with like different people about their journey, and or even people I'm just following on Instagram, they just make it seem like this is just something they decided to do and they're doing it. And I'm like, no, like we all want to know like the deep down, like nitty gritty, every little thing. And I feel like very honored that you have that perspective, that you allowed us to like take a peek in, and you're just very honest with it. Even just like talking about how you felt shame moving from a doctorate like degree to like something else. And first of all, there's no shame in that. Right. And second of all, that's a very like just really cool that you would even admit to saying that, you know? So I like people like that. I don't want to be friends with people that just like kind of, you know, candy coat things. I like people that are just completely honest with their journey, because we can learn things from that too, but you literally have to like have done the hard work and be very honest and like pinpoint, like, I have issue with this and this is how I'm working through it, so that the rest of us are able to kind of know how to attack it too. Yeah, it might not be the same, but that's what I'm.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that like if there's one thing that, you know, I hope to do, like even in a season where I'm not working necessarily, or I don't have like a job or whatever, that like, I mean, I just know that everything I've been through, and like even this bodybuilding journey is not just like, this is not just like for me, or it's not for like the glory of like the sport or like the body or anything like that, but hopefully to to encourage like others in their own journey, like not just like with health and wellness, but just with self-love, like in general, which sounds like so like weird to say, like self-love, so hippie to say, but it's true.
I love that. Well, I've said this in the past too, but I feel like we have such a gift of so many of our family members being such close friends. And you and I grew up together so closely and grew up, I feel like, like three peas in a pod with Katie included in that. And I've just always admired you so much. And I feel like we reconnected in college, which was so fun because we were like in the same phase of life. And that was just like a fun, like some of my favorite memories from college include you, a lot of them, I should say. And one word I would describe, let me do two words I would use to describe you. One is that you're incredibly passionate. And then the other one is that you're incredibly loyal. And even though you're younger than me, I've looked up to you in so many different aspects of your life, because what I feel like when you were like, I'm just mediocre at things, I'm like, that's so funny, because my impression of you has always been like you are incredibly skilled at everything that you do, not because it comes necessarily natural to you, but because you're willing to put in the hard work. But like Whitney said, one thing that I feel so deeply connected to you by is that like there's an intense vulnerability and a raw and realness about you that I feel like I can connect with you on such a deep level because you're willing to let me in. And that's such a rare quality to find in friends. And it takes like a lifetime to make a friend like that, where you can have like deep conversation where someone's like willing to admit, like Whitney was saying, like, I felt shame in this. I felt like I was doing this wrong, or, I struggled with this. And that's it's so hard to find people that want to like be able to let you in, to be able to like share in that with you. And I know you say you're introverted, which I know you are, but you're so incredibly good at having deep relationships with the people that you are willing to let in. And so you're so easy to talk to and to listen to. But with your loyalty, you're incredibly intentional in everything that you do, whether that's like your lifestyle with bodybuilding, your marriage, your friendships, and especially in relationships with me. Like, I feel like you remember things, you follow up on things, you're intentional in the way that you pray for other people. And whether or not you have 15 friends or 3 friends, like you're going to be like all in with those people. And I just think that that's incredibly like amazing to watch. And I feel like really honored to be in your circle of people that get to benefit from that, because I like have always adored you and have always wanted to be your friend. I've like had a friend crush on you since forever. Like I'm always like, one of these days she's gonna find out I'm a real loser and she's gonna like expose, and she won't want to be my friend. But like recently, a couple of months ago, you texted me to like hang out, and I was like, she wants to hang out with me. Like, what? I was like so honored that you asked, because yeah, I don't know, because I just love you so much. So anyways, I appreciate your vulnerability and your rawness, not just in our friendship, but just in this podcast alone, because I think it takes intense confidence, obviously. And then there's an assurance in your identity with Christ that really shines when you speak, because you can tell that you've done the heart and the hard work to get to a place where you can talk about this in confidence, because you know that the Lord, like you're rooted in the Lord. And I think that that's like, it's just really cool to hear your story. Like, even if we went another hour, I think everyone would be like on the edge of their seat listening to your, because it's really like heartwarming to hear. So anyways.
Well, and just one
hair flip.
Well, I gotta agree with Kate. I know that since there's such an age gap, it's not like we were like hung out a lot as like, as we were younger, from family's perspective, but there's never been one time that I've ever thought of you as mediocre. Like, it's never even crossed my mind. Like, I have always looked at you as been someone who excels at everything that they do, whether it was in school or photography or the bodybuilding, the strength training, all of those things, it was always like you went after it 100% and you were always like exceeding expectations. That's how I always have viewed you from, from afar. So just know that whether you felt that way or not, that's not what it looked like on the
Yeah. I was like, wow, she's like crushing this.
Oh gosh. Thank you. Imposter syndrome is just a crazy, crazy thing.
Yeah. And you placed like third in your first show ever, which is like wild. Like you don't even give yourself enough credit that you were also like an incredibly successful photographer and like gained all these followers, and you were always booked and traveling. Like you definitely, you're successful, Hilary.
Oh my. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. It's been like a journey, and I feel like I know that,
yeah,
it's going to continue to be that way, but I feel very, committed to just the process and hopefully having more conversations like these, because honestly, like that is truly like what gives me so much like encouragement. It's just like not only being able to like speak these things and, like when you, how do I want to say it? When you're like saying something and you're like trying to encourage others, but you're like in the process of like encouraging yourself as well. So yeah. And I just feel like that is absolutely like what this conversation has done to me. I think bodybuilding can be an extremely like lonely world for sure. So being able to share about it and actually be at a place where I'm believing a lot of what I'm saying just feels so like edifying to my soul. And I hope it's encouraging other people, and hope that more conversations like these can happen like in the future, and or just like, can I hang out with all of you guys? Like I seriously have always like looked up to you three, and especially just like now as an adult, just seeing how close you guys are and how banded together you guys are. It's just been so awesome to see. And so I've always like wanted to be like in the group. Like, I'm like, how do I be a fourth sister in this? Because the way you guys do business together is just so incredible, and just like family together in general. So I'm so thankful for all of you guys, and for asking me the hard questions, but also just like caring. Like, this sounds like, I don't mean it to sound sad, but like caring enough to like ask,
Yeah.
So I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, we care a lot. Clearly. I love it. Well, this was such a great conversation. Truly, like, I feel so like full after all of this conversation. And just because I think we've all been really reanalyzing our health, mental and physical, with this business, and how it can totally take a toll on you if you don't keep it in check. And so it's been this like, not like buzzword, but it's been like a hot topic within our family of just like having, this perpetuating like weight problem in our family or extended family, where it just feels like it's like a banner over your life, where you can't ever like escape being in a place where you feel like so good about your body. And like you said, feeling like you deserve that as well. I feel like that really stuck with me. And like the comment you made about the scale doesn't owe you anything, and that your measured success shouldn't be in that, but just finding like some peace in pursuing what's going to make your health long-term in a good place. So anyways, I loved this conversation. This was so great. We love you so much. Now everyone can put a face to the name every time we mention you on our podcast weekly. I've been giving you a shout out to the streak. So,
oh my gosh.
Yes, we thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We love you guys so much, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.